Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lin. Namaskar. Coming up in the next 1 hour. The US Vice President Harris, German Chancellor Scholz, French President Macron among those hoping to build a consensus on ways to end the Russia-Ukraine conflict. It's the concluding day of the Swiss Peace Summit. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu reiterates his pledge to defeat Hamas and bring the hostages back. He says there's no other alternative. Former US President Trump visits a church in Detroit to win over Black American voters. He vows to revitalize auto industry and create jobs. And Eid-Al-Adha is being celebrated across the Arab world with religious fervor, to be celebrated in India on Monday. Leaders and country representatives are making closing statements at the summit on peace in Ukraine. It's about Ukraine, actually. It's taking place in Switzerland. Now, the Western powers and the countries from the rest of the world have gathered in Switzerland to pursue a consensus on condemning Russia's invasion of Ukraine and underscoring concerns about the war's human cost. The talks focused on broader concerns triggered by the conflict, such as food and nuclear security. World leaders have strongly rejected ceasefire terms laid out by Vladimir Putin to stop the conflict. The US Vice President Kamala Harris said that Putin is not calling for negotiations, while the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz dismissed it as a dictatorial peace. And the UK Prime Minister slammed Russia for its conditions on peace.
And let nothing about the end of this war be decided without Ukraine. By contrast, however, yesterday, Putin put forward a proposal. But we must speak truth. He is not calling for negotiations, he is calling for surrender.
Peace in Ukraine cannot be achieved without involving Russia. But let us not forget that, as we speak, Russia continues to relentlessly wage its brutal war. We all know Russia could end this war today or at any given moment once it ceases its onslaught and withdraws troops from Ukraine.
The Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida called on the international leaders to work together to achieve a lasting peace in Ukraine. And as the international governments seek a broader consensus for Kiev's peace proposals, the summit has been shunned by China and dismissed as a waste of time by Russia, which has pushed its own rival ceasefire plans from afar. Now, more than 90 countries have taken part in this summit, but China's absence in particular has dimmed hopes that it would show Russia as globally isolated, while recent military reverses also have put Kiev on the back foot. Now, Kishida also restated Japan's concerns over the possibility that this conflict in Europe could spill over into other regions. He said that Ukraine today could become East Asia tomorrow. Let's listen.
On the basis of the idea that the conflict in Ukraine today could be East Asia tomorrow, Japan has been implementing tough sanctions and providing strong support for Ukraine ever since Russia began its invasion more than 2 years ago. The achievement of a just and lasting peace in Ukraine is symbolically important in leading the international community in its entirety toward a world not of division and confrontation, but of cooperation. May those of us gathered here seize the initiative and demonstrate our leadership.
Well, the European Commission chief, Ursula von der Leyen, was not in favor of accepting the status quo as it stands today.
Freezing the conflict today with foreign troops occupying Ukrainian land is not an answer. In fact, It is a recipe for future wars of aggression. Instead, we need to support a comprehensive, just, and sustainable peace for Ukraine.
A draft of a communique for the Ukraine Peace Summit says that future peace negotiations should involve representatives of all parties in the conflict and follow agreements on nuclear security, food security and return of prisoners of war and kidnapped children. It urges Ukraine's territorial integrity to be respected. This document also calls for Kiev to regain control of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant and access to its seaports. So my colleague Jessica Taneja has been following the story closely, and she joins us in the studio now to throw light on it. Well, Jessica, they are wrapping up their sort of making their final statements as we speak. So what's going to come out of this summit?
Well, the joint statement, the draft that is being prepared, the participation of various countries, especially 100, that also includes 8 organizations, they either can confirm or come back with their viewpoints by the end of Friday is what we're told in the coming week. But what the joint statement wants to push is to say this is Russia's invasion. It would be replaced with war, something that Ukraine has been pointing out from the very beginning. The point of contention here, Mark, is the 10-point peace plan, which Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, had come up with back in 2022, late 2022, to propose a ceasefire or a cessation of activities in the 4 key regions that both Russia and Ukraine continue to fight on, which is the Kherson, Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, as you pointed out, Luhansk region and the Donetsk region. 2 of those, the Luhansk and the Donetsk region, pretty much controlled by Russia at this point, and so to say 18% of the Ukrainian territory is now controlled by Russia, something that the Ukrainians do want, and that final draft would also call withdrawal of Russian troops from all Ukrainian territories and for Ukraine's push to go ahead with its NATO membership, something that has been on the tenterhooks for a while, but as and when we know how the diplomatic activities play out in that particular summit, it'll be more clear as to what happens to that status.
Yes, but Zelensky is using this from his point of view that this is the world supporting the Ukrainian position because it's, as you said, 100 countries, more than 90 countries. So it's a majority of the world opinion, in his opinion. But Russia doesn't think that. And Russia has its own proposals. Putin himself, one day before this, has come out with a rather strong statement.
Yes, and you heard Kamala Harris, the Vice President of the United States, also point out the fact that the terms of those conditions are unacceptable. While Russia has agreed, I think the information was put out through the Russian president to the Kremlin yesterday. The plan briefly states, as the Russians would say, quote unquote, denazification and demilitarization of Ukraine, and also giving up, its permanent membership of NATO, something that Russia has been pointing out from the very beginning is unacceptable. And of course, gaining access to seaports, as you also pointed out earlier. With that, also, Russia says that all the 4 territories will be controlled by it, which again is contentious for Ukraine, and it's not ready to give up. And that is where the battle is still being fought, particularly in the Kherson region and Zaporizhzhia, as it looks like. So till the time those conditions are met, and also to the effect that Russia demands lifting of the sanctions because it has crippled its economy for a while. It can't export, gas and also gold, very crucial to the Russian economy, including a lot of important imports that Russia has been deprived of, and currently, with the aid of Chinese, is being able to sustain itself to an extent. But it does need, those sanctions, and there are hundreds and thousands of sanctions, Mark. It's difficult to even count the number of sanctions that Russia has been put on. So given all of these, developments in place, these are the basic conditions that the Russians want. But of course, something as contentious as giving up all those 4 territories for Ukraine is not going to happen so easily. So, and there are plans of another summit being held next year, an extension of this summit. Perhaps that would give out more clarity. But then it's 1 year away, and the war still rages and lives being lost.
And Russia has been quite firm also that they will retaliate to the $50 billion loan that has been given to Ukraine out of frozen money, Russian frozen money. So that also, I mean, this happened just prior to this peace summit, sending a signal clearly to Russia that, you know, you should come and negotiate. But Russia, of course, is not in a position to negotiate, and was not even invited for this summit. And the Chinese not being at the summit, I mean, from the Russian point of view, they can't take this seriously.
Well, if you look at how the Russians are looking at this peace summit, for them it's quote-unquote a futile exercise. But at the same time, the Russians do want to put that point forward, because right before the summit was to take place yesterday, the Kremlin had put out details of what they expect as their peace plan to move forward, and requiring any kind of ceasefire or ending hostilities on the border. So given that the Russians are very much aware of how this peace summit is going, even though they consider it futile, and its important ally in China, which has refused to participate simply on the reasons that it wouldn't want to partake in a summit where Russia, who's accused of various war crimes and territorial expansionist problems, is not present at the summit. So for them, for the Chinese, it was something they would not go to.
So would you see this as a first step? I mean, maybe the second round would have both, because even Scholz was talking about how Russia has to be present, and perhaps the Chinese need to be on board as well. And various other countries need to have a significant presence, I mean, let's say at the political level as well, for a summit to move forward.
Well, interestingly, Mark, there's representation from the Middle East as well. And it was just last week when Qatar mediated the return of 20 Ukrainian children back from Russia. So that was a crucial development, and how Saudi Arabia has been given quite a preference at the Ukrainian summit also shows that Middle East is also playing a crucial part. But given the fact, the kind of support that Ukraine needs at this point, well, according to the World Bank estimates of the damage assessment report that was put out, Ukraine needs $486 billion in the next 10 years. And what it has received so far is often difficult or confusing at times to keep track of. For example, the United States has been going to give $1.5 billion to Ukraine for aid through the Repo Act, which is going to help build crucial economic insufficiencies for the country. But at the same time, the $50 billion aid package that was agreed upon at the G7 summit is also very controversial. While you heard from the officials who say that the money could reach Kyiv by the end of this year, but the legalities of that are still being worked out, because that money has been taken from the profits of the frozen Russian assets, and which nearly amount to $270 billion. So Russians wouldn't be pleased with that at all, and would sort of take coercive actions if needed. I mean, it's unpredictable, but we'll see what happens in the future.
Leave it there. Thank you very much, Jessica Taneja, for putting that into perspective for us. Now, updates on Israel-Hamas conflict. And the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has reiterated his pledge to defeat Hamas and bring the hostages back. In a video statement issued late on Saturday, Netanyahu said that there was no alternative but to stick to the goals of the conflict. And his statement came just hours after 8 Israeli soldiers were killed in southern Gaza.
Despite the heavy staggering cost, we must stick to the goals of the war: the destruction of Hamas military and governmental capabilities, the return of all our hostages, ensuring that Gaza no longer poses a threat to Israel, and the safe return of our residents to their homes, both in the north and in the south.
The Israeli military said on Sunday that it would hold daily tactical pauses in military activity in parts of southern Gaza to allow more aid to flow into the enclave, where international aid organizations have warned of a growing humanitarian crisis. Military activity would be paused from 5 o'clock in the morning GMT until 1600 hours GMT daily, until further notice, along the road that leads to the Kerem Shalom crossing to the Salah al-Din road and then northwards. As part of a push to peel the black voters away, from the U.S. President Joe Biden ahead of the November election, the former president and contender Donald Trump has ventured into territory where few Republican presidential candidates have tread before. That's the city of Detroit, and he was at a 180 church on the west side of the city. And Trump sat on the stage at a table flanked by a panel of members of the local community, including small business owners and activists. And the event was moderated by the U.S. Representative Byron Donalds of Florida, who could be a contender for the vice presidential post if Trump wants it. And Trump focused on his core messages, blasting the Biden administration over high inflation, crime and illegal migration, which he said has harmed black Americans in particular. He also vowed to revitalize the local auto industry in Detroit by slapping tariffs on vehicles which were built in Mexico or elsewhere.
Millions of illegal aliens are pouring in and they're taking your jobs. The black community is being hurt more by the illegal aliens, 16, 17 million. They're taking your jobs. You're down 6-7% from where you were just 3 years ago with me. And it's going much lower because millions and millions of people are coming into your communities. It's no longer every state is a border state. You've heard that. But they're coming into your community and they're taking your job. They're affecting the African Americans and then after that the Hispanic Americans more than any other group.
Still to come here on DD India News Hour. At least 9 people, including children, are wounded at a shooting incident near Detroit. Animal herders clash with farmers for dwindling pasture land amid a severe drought in Nigeria.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts, we demystify complex social, political and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. As many as 10 people, including children, were shot and wounded at. This was happening at a city-run water park near Detroit, happening Saturday evening. Now, the suspect was still at large when the police last reported, and the police said that they believed that the suspect was cornered in a house nearby. The gun was found at the scene. It was not immediately clear if there were any fatalities, and the initial reports had said 5 people had been shot, but that has gone up to 10. Desertification and drought, especially in Nigeria's northeast region, is leading to migration of cattle herders to areas where the pasture is lush. This has led to conflict between crop farmers and herders over the battle for land, leading to deaths and reduced food production. Climatologists are seeking policies such as ranching for herders as a way out of the situation. DD India's Tasim Akende reports from Jos in Nigeria.
Herder Abdul Bello is out with his cattle on the outskirts of Jos for pasture. He relocated from Bauchi in the country's northeast due to encroaching desertification and drought.
This is our source of livelihood, raising cows and selling them. Here in Plateau State, it rains well, so there is good pasture for cattle. In other parts of the country, especially in the far north, cows just die due to lack of water for them to drink and hunger.
Bello is among thousands of herders who are now grazing in Nigeria's north-central states like Plateau and Benue. Having migrated from the northeast Sahel region, it has triggered eco-related conflicts between them and crop farmers in host communities.
The plants don't get to mature to their full capacity before the rain stops. So one of the key problems that we have faced here is, of course, the issue of the drought, basically caused by climate change and, of course, land degradation, leading to shortage of rainfall.
According to the country's House of Representatives, over 60,000 lives have been lost due to clashes between farmers and herders since 2001. This has jeopardized food production, leading to soaring food prices and hunger. Climate experts say solutions exist.
We can actually encourage herders to see how they can get the best of their herds by keeping them in one place, and then of course feeding them better, and then getting the resources out of their herds, such as milk and meat that they can use into creating various other products.
The government has warned that herders face arrest if they let their cattle stray into farms. The president has also called on state governors, who are statutorily the custodians of land, to make it available for herders to graze on in a way that won't lead to conflict between farmers. Some governors have instituted a ban on open grazing, calling on private investments in ranches for cattle herding. But other states are yet to do so, leaving herders like Abdul Bello to search for pasture for their cows. Tashim Akende in Jos, reporting for DD India.
Sweden and Iran carried out a prisoner exchange on Saturday, with Sweden freeing a former Iranian official convicted for his role in a mass execution in the 1980s, while Iran released 2 Swedes being held there. Now, the prisoner swap was mediated by Oman. Sweden freed the former Iranian official Hamid Nouri, who had been convicted for his part in a mass execution of political prisoners in Iran in 1988. Meanwhile, Swedish citizens Johan Floderus and Saeed Azizi, who had been detained in Iran, were freed and flown back to Sweden, where they arrived late on Saturday. In Slovakia, Peter Pellegrini was sworn in as the country's president on Saturday in the capital Bratislava. Pellegrini is a member, in fact, of Prime Minister Robert Fico's nationalist left coalition and won the country's presidential election in April. Prime Minister Fico, who took power for the 4th time last October, has turned the country's foreign policy towards more pro-Russian views and initiated reforms on criminal law as well as the media, raising concerns about weakening the rule of law. Fico is recovering at home after being shot 4 times at close range when he greeted supporters at a government meeting in the central Slovak town of Hlandova. This happened on May 15. And in a surprise announcement on Saturday, the former French President François Hollande, he said that he's going to run for parliament in the upcoming legislative elections. Hollande said that he would stand as an MP for the southwestern Corrèze department for the new Popular Front, which is a left-wing grouping, and it was formed for the elections. It includes the socialists, the hard left, the Greens, as well as the communists. Hollande is not the first president to run for legislative elections after leaving the Élysée Palace. This happened in 1984 then, 3 years after his defeat against François Mitterrand, the then president, or the earlier president, Valéry Giscard. He was elected as an MP from the Puy de Dôme, this department. And the elections, in fact, with the first round on June 30 and the second on July 7, were called by Macron after the far-right National Rally trounced his own centrist ruling party in this month's European elections, recording more than double its vote. The Democratic Republic of Congo has received nearly 700,000 doses of a new malaria vaccine to help control and eradicate the tropical disease. The vaccine was developed by the Serum Institute of India, and it will be administered to children between the ages of 6 to 23 months, in fact, starting later this year. DD India correspondent Chris Okamringa has more from Kinshasa.
A consignment of vaccines against the leading killer disease in the Democratic Republic of Congo arrives in Kinshasa. The R21 Matrix M vaccine was developed by India's Serum Institute to help prevent malaria deaths in children. Studies have shown it to be 75% effective. Many senior Congolese officials were excited to receive them.
We are here to receive a vaccine against malaria for the first time. As you know, malaria is one of the biggest causes of mortality, especially among our children and grandchildren. They are the ones paying the heavy price.
Malaria is spread by a bite of an infected mosquito. The DRC is reported to have the second highest number of malaria deaths globally. The country recorded over 24,000 deaths last year. Most of them were among children under the age of 5. The vaccine was approved by the World Health Organization in October last year.
I think this vaccine will be a real game changer in terms of preventing malaria. As you know, DRC is one of the 11 what you call high burden malaria countries around the world. Given the size of the country in terms of land size and population, DRC is really when we think this vaccine can make a difference.
Congolese authorities plan to roll out the vaccine later this year, but they'll have to convince many parents who are skeptical about vaccines due to misinformation spread during the COVID-19 pandemic.
This is a tried and true product. We know the effects of malaria. We know what that will do to the people here and especially to children. So when there is a reliable product that can reduce the mortality and the impact of this disease, I would say, you know, the malaria is a far greater, they should be far more afraid of malaria than the vaccine.
Figures from health organizations show that sub-Saharan Africa has suffered the most from malaria, accounting for 90% of cases and deaths annually. Health officials in the DRC are optimistic about reducing and eventually eradicating malaria in their country with the arrival of the vaccines from India. But that will depend on the uptake of the vaccines by the population, which has in the past been hesitant to get their children vaccinated against killer diseases. Chris Sochamringa in Kinshasa, reporting for DD India.
Well, let's take a look now at other stories making the news around the globe. Rescuers, they carried dogs on a boat to save them from a flooded area in one of the Chilean regions, which is hardest hit by intense rains. Floods have left tens of thousands damaged, tens of thousands of houses damaged, and one casualty were nationwide. Listeners in Australia were amazed after hearing a mix of US hip-hop group Wu-Tang Clan's one-of-a-kind album Once Upon a Time in Shaolin as part of an exclusive exhibit at the Tasmanian Museum. Singapore on Sunday closed off several popular coastal parks as an oil spill continued to spread along its shores, with authorities vowing to intensify cleanup efforts. Still to come here on DD India News Hour, the first ever documentary film bazaar at the Mumbai International Film Festival is inaugurated. And a yoga event at Trafalgar Square in the UK.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Here's a recap of our main stories. The Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has reiterated his pledge to defeat Hamas and bring the hostages back. He says there's no other alternative. The former US President Donald Trump has visited a church in Detroit to win over black American voters. And he's vowed also to revitalize the auto industry and create more jobs. Eid-Al-Adha is being celebrated across the Arab world with religious fervor. It's to be celebrated in India on Monday. And now let's get you updates from the 18th edition of the Mumbai International Film Festival. The first ever documentary film bazaar at the Mumbai International Film Festival was inaugurated by the filmmaker Purva Bakshi. And after the inauguration, Bakshi said that the Mumbai International Film Festival there's a lot of help, over there for filmmakers, including from the funding point of view. The MIFF will host the film bazaar it's going to be happening from the 16th of June till the 18th, and this is dedicated space. It caters specifically to documentaries, animation and short films, fostering collaboration and growth within these vibrant mediums. It also marks a significant step towards moving forward for the MIFF, because it's solidifying its position, in fact, as a premier platform for non-feature films in South Asia. And Shama Mishra has been following this story closely. She joins us now from Mumbai. Shama, what is the importance of, a film bazaar, a documentary film bazaar? Put that into context for us.
Well, Mark, for starters, we understand that bazaar itself means that it's about a place where marketing and everything happens. So this is a concept which is there at International Film Festival of India, which is IFFI, held every year at Goa. But this is the first time that it is being organized at MIF, which is Mumbai International Film Festival, and a place which is totally dedicated to the documentary filmmakers, short filmmakers and animation. This is a perfect platform. The Doc Bazaar is a perfect platform to collaborate and get together and understand how marketing, distribution and the money part actually happens. So this is a place where the business talks will take place. It has started from today, and there's also a lot of aspects to it. We are also talking about the work in progress lab, wherein the movies that are at the rough cut stage that will be brought in over here, and the expertise can then get in touch with the filmmakers, and then they can give their opinion and all the assistance required. Then there is a viewing room where the movies which have already made, then that can be shown. There's another part where the movies which is at the development stage, that is being showcased, and one of the filmmakers, Katyayani, is with us. She has showcased some part of her movie, the development stage, Sons of the River. Katyayani, welcome to DD India. What's your film about, and how do you see this Doc Bazaar as a platform and MIF as a platform?
Well, thank you so much. I'm really glad to be here, first of all. So my film, Sons of the River, is a feature documentary that we're shooting in Punjab. And it basically focuses on the Bhakra Canal and the divers that are working on that canal, the great social service they're doing, helping families. So it's definitely a human interest story, an environmental story. This Doc Bazaar is exactly what we've been looking for, and I think a lot of documentary filmmakers are looking for, because the productions in India for documentary filmmakers, I mean, documentaries like any other film need money, but it's a hard market to crack. And so a lot of times we go abroad and we look for co-productions and foreign companies and, grants from other countries around the world. So we definitely want to tap into regional funding and have, accessibility here in our homeland, which would be completely, I think, it would just revolutionize the way that people see documentaries and the exposure and the accessibility.
Right,
Katyayani, you mentioned, this will definitely change a way how people see documentaries. That means earlier, or still, we see documentaries as a part where, main theaters will not have it. It's not a thing that is commercialized. How do you see the changing of the documentary short films in today's world, and especially in India?
So if you asked me, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I didn't have any friends that used to watch documentaries. Now when I ask them, they're like, oh, I just watched this really great documentary on Netflix. It's something that people just watch. It's entertainment. And I've heard a lot of people tell me that, oh, documentaries, that doesn't require that much creativity, right? It could be like the complete opposite. I'd say it's almost more creative than narrative because you're working with circumstances you can't change. You have to make a story every single day. So when I talk about revolutionizing the way that we see documentaries, I mean that it can be entertaining and it can tell a story. And films, for me as a director, have more of, they have a necessity in the market to have a social impact. And so I feel like documentaries can do that and they can be entertaining, and that is not impossible. So let's go for it.
All right. Okay. So, Mark,
right, Sharma, one more question you could ask her about is the finance. She did say that, there's a lot more creativity. But with modern technology, the costs have definitely come down, isn't it, for documentary filmmaking? People use their mobile phones. They have pretty decent cameras nowadays, which are available at cheaper costs. Clearly, I mean, it is much wider and open to the average person to start making documentaries. So, I mean, why is money such a big factor?
Well, Katyani, my anchor is asking one more question. Given the fact that there's so much technological advance happening, there are cameras in your phone, everyone is a storyteller. Why is finance still a question? Why is finance still, a big question mark for the documentary makers, and why can't it reach a larger audience?
Wow, that's a great question. One that I think that you should address to distribution companies and streamers. I just was at the Cannes market, and a lot of the producers and companies that I met with put so much emphasis on the quality of the film besides the story. And in today morning's panel, that's the same stuff that I kept hearing people talk about. The truth is that I think that stories should come first, but that is, I think, the ongoing debate between a lot of producers. Quality obviously matters, but I think that the quality shouldn't be about the camera, it should be about your creative vision. That is what needs quality. If your story is there, and you know how to translate a story onto the screen and give it that beauty that only a camera can do justice to, then that's all you need.
All right. Yeah. All right. So, right, there she said it, Mark, we can have any camera, but your creativity comes from within, and that is most important. And actually the money, the part where the money is required would be also the pre-production stage as well as the post-production stage. So, once you've made the film with your own camera, with the technology that we have currently, even if it's made easily, the distribution part is hard. And as you and I both know, that the distribution of documentary still is, not an easy thing. It's still not accessible. So we have to change that, and Mumbai International Film Festival is doing just that. And as we are, aware that India is trying to establish itself as a content hub of the world, this platform is a big platform for the short filmmakers, for the animation, VFX, because there's a big thrust from the government of India side on the AVGC sector, on the animation sector. So this is also coming up pretty good, and that's what we are saying, that documentaries, short films should find its space. And one of the main game changers are definitely OTT. Because of them, as she also mentioned, that her friends are seeing great films on OTT platforms. So OTT platforms are real game changer over here, and we are hoping that more and more number of documentaries, good documentaries, come on OTT platforms, showcasing our Indian heritage, showcasing our Indian society. Mark.
We leave it there. Thank you very much, Sharma Mishra. Thank you for joining us. And the first ever documentary film bazaar in Mumbai International Film Festival, as we said, was inaugurated on Sunday. MIF is hosting the film bazaar from the 16th to the 18th. It's dedicated space especially for documentaries, animation and short films, fostering collaboration and growth within these vibrant mediums. DD India visited the Doc Bazaar, where many countries have put up their stalls showcasing their offerings.
The first ever Dog Bazaar at the Mumbai International Film Festival was inaugurated, and we are seeing right now that there are various stalls set up over here, including the Film Facilitation Center. There are states, there are other countries that are representing their own country, and they are collaborating with India. First, we have over here Belarus, and Alexander is with us. Alexander, hi. What are your Namaste? What is your stall offering, and how are you collaborating with India?
Here, during this festival, our national cinema company is represented. It is called Belarus Film. This is a major cinema company. It is a state-run company in our country. It was founded 100 years back, in 1924. So today, this year, we are celebrating 100 years of its activity.
We also have Argentina over here, and Maria from Argentina.
India and Argentina are very far away, which is true and objective on the geographically speaking. But on the other side, we are very near, and especially on the heart and on the cinema. You know, there has been co-productions, but actually we have made a lot on cinema in this last month also. The Mumbai International Film Festival is about mainly cinema, but also about culture.
We also have Iran over here, and if you see, it's also representing its culture over here. We have Zakir Hussain here.
We have 5-6 films in MIFF, documentary films, and a director from Iran has also come, Mohammad Kiryandish. He will also be in the panel discussion. His film is Dolphin Boy. So we are actually representing the culture and the tourism of Iran.
So overall, this is all about the international countries that are participating in the Dog Bazaar. With camera person Gaurav Kagra, this is Shama Mishra for DD India, Mumbai.
A museum created for the bereaved families of the earthquake victims of 2001 Kutch earthquake, Smritivan in Gujarat, the western state of India, has made it to the list of 7 most beautiful museums in the world under the Prix Versailles Award, which is announced annually for architecture and design. And in fact, it is the first time that an Indian museum has received this honor. Here's more.
Over 13,000 people had died in the devastating earthquake of 2001 in Gujarat's Kutch. The earthquake had reduced Kutch to shambles, but to the resilience of the people of Kutch, it stood back on its feet. And to pay tribute to this resilience, India's largest memorial and museum, Smritivan, was constructed. Smritivan means a forest of memories and is the largest memorial and museum to ever be built in modern India, covering a vast area of over 470 acres, situated on the Bhujio Dungar, a small hill in the outskirts of Bhuj, which was the epicenter of the 2001 earthquake. Envisioned by Prime Minister Modi, the memorial carries names of the people who had lost their lives during the earthquake. The state-of-the-art Smritivan Earthquake Museum is segregated in 7 blocks based on 7 themes: rebirth, rediscover, restore, rebuild, rethink, relive and renew. These blocks depict ability of the earth to overcome every time, Gujarat's topography, aftermath of the 2001 earthquake, massive relief efforts, and Gujarat's rebuilding initiatives, success stories post-2001 earthquake. One of the blocks helps the visitors to relive the experience of an earthquake with the help of a simulator, and a space for remembrance where they can pay homage to the lost souls. It is a matter of pride for Gujarat and India and a tribute to those who lost their lives in the 2001 earthquake, with Smritivan finding a place on the world selection for the Prix Versailles Museums 2024. This will also increase the museum's global popularity and enable the world to understand the devastation of natural disasters and its aftermath. Meghna Dev's report, DD India.
A historic moment. The first ever direct flight between India and Cambodia was officially inaugurated in Phnom Penh by the Cambodian Deputy Prime Minister Nath Sayiwan and the Ambassador of India to Cambodia, Devyani Khobragade. And this also marks the start of the first tourism year set to boost tourism and people-to-people connect and will give a boost to India's Act East policy. On irregularities in the NEET exam, India's Education Minister Dr. Dharmendra Pradhan assured students that the government is committed to securing the future of students. And he further has said that no one will be spared if found guilty and stringent action will be taken against the culprits.
जहाँ जहाँ इस प्रकार की गड़बड़ियों की सूचना पुख्ता जानकारी के साथ अभी मिल रहा है, उस पर स्पेसिफिक कार्रवाई भी कोर्ट की संज्ञान में रखते हुए सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने सारा विषय को एक नज़र रखी है। कोर्ट की निगरानी में सारा विषय को किया जा रहा है। नीट जैसे महत्वपूर्ण परीक्षा 100% पारदर्शी हो, ये हम उसके लिए कमिटेड है, सरकार उसके लिए प्रतिबद्ध है। उसमें जो भी गड़बड़ी में दोषी पाए जाएंगे, वो एनटीए भी हो तो भी उसको बख्शा नहीं जाएगा, उस पर कड़ी से कड़ी कार्रवाई की जाएगी।
The Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem was thronged by thousands of worshippers to attend prayers of the Al-Adha or the Eid-Al-Adha holiday. Now, men, women and children arrived in Jerusalem's old city as the sun was rising, making their way to the holy site for Muslims and Jews. Now, sweets were handed over outside, in fact, the mosque in the compound, and festive crowds flocked the narrow alleyways of the old city. The Indian Army has organized a mini marathon in the Union Territory of Ladakh to mark the 25th anniversary of the Kargil Vijay Divas. The event had enthusiastic participation from more than 316 students aged between 15 and 18 years of age. Brigadier Prasar, who's the commander of the 121 Infantry Brigade, was the chief guest, and the Deputy Commissioner of Kargil, Shrikant Suse, was the chief guest. They jointly flagged off the marathon. The mini marathon is part of a series of events organized by the Indian Army in conjunction with the district administration to honor the bravery and service and sacrifice of those involved in this historic conflict. And now, all the updates from the International Day of Yoga, which is to be celebrated on the 21st of June. And in 5 days from now, the world is going to be celebrating the 10th International Day of Yoga, celebrating a timeless practice that celebrates oneness and harmony. The Prime Minister of India shared a video on his X handle that offers guidance for Padhasthana and its benefits.
Hastasana. In Sanskrit, Pada means foot and Hasta means hands. That's why Padahastasana means the yogasana, where you touch your feet with your hands. This asana is also known as Uttanasana. To do this asana, first stand straight with your feet at a distance of 2 inches from one another. Now, taking a long, deep breath in, raise both your hands straight in front of you and take them up over your head. Stretch your body up as much as you can from your waist. While breathing out slowly in this posture, bend your body forward till the point where both your palms can touch the floor. When bending down, take care that your arms and head both go down at the same time. Remember, if you have a problem of stiffness in your back, then bend only up to the point where you don't experience any strain or difficulty. Breathing in and out normally, stay in this posture for about 10 to 30 seconds. Padahastasana makes your backbone flexible. This asana gives relief from problems which arise during the female menstrual cycle. Refrain from doing this asana if you are suffering from any heart disease, back or backbone-related problems, vertigo, or swelling in the stomach. Patients suffering from hernia, high myopia, ulcer, and pregnant women should also refrain from doing this asana. Staying in this posture for 10 to 30 seconds, take a deep breath in. Come up slowly to a standing position. Take care that your arms and head come up at the same time. While doing this, both your hands should be stretched up above your head. While exhaling slowly, bring both your hands down and relax. Practicing this asana regularly improves your digestive process and also gives relief from constipation.
And in an early celebration of the upcoming International Yoga Day on June 21, the 127-year-old yoga guru Swami Sivananda performed yoga at an event in Mumbai. As per details and records, he was born in 1896, and the extremely elderly gentleman performed this yoga flawlessly and actively, as we can see. A week-long yoga celebration has been organized in Uttar Pradesh's Mathura district. Over 800 people participated in the celebration. The event was graced by the presence of the former minister, Shrikant Sharma. The High Commission of India in Sri Lanka is continuing to mark the occasion. Events are being held, and they are held on Sunday as well, with the specific theme of yoga for spirituality at various places of Sri Lanka. The High Commission of India in the United Kingdom organized a yoga event at Trafalgar Square, which witnessed a significant participation. In fact, more than 700 enthusiastic people participated in this event. The main focus remains on continuing yoga's role in healing and personal growth, rather than aiming for differences in participation. A holistic yoga and meditation session took place at Lake Davos, nestled in the Alps, organized by the Embassy of India in Switzerland. The session was led by Poon's Anup Dhingra, who is celebrating the 10th International Day of Yoga 2024. And the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, is back with his monthly program, Man Ki Baat, and going to take place on Sunday, the 30th of June. There's an opportunity for you to share your innovative ideas and suggestions directly with the Prime Minister. Some of the suggestions would be referred to by the Prime Minister during his address. On the weather forecast for the northeastern part of India, Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Meghalaya, Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram and Tripura, and the sub-Himalayan West Bengal and Sikkim are experiencing fairly widespread to widespread rainfall. Heavy rainfall is being experienced in isolated places of sub-Himalayan West Bengal and Sikkim, Assam and Meghalaya and Arunachal Pradesh. Very heavy rainfall is being experienced at isolated places of Assam and Meghalaya and sub-Himalayan West Bengal and Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh. In Assam, the flood situation took a slight U-turn from yesterday, with just Dhemaji district remaining mostly affected. 1,216 people have been affected. Now, the situation has improved. In other areas, no river is flowing above the danger mark, and the number of flood-affected villages has come down to 5 in 3 districts as the situation continues to improve. 2 districts remain affected, namely Karimganj and Dhemaji, and a total of 29 villages and 3 revenue circles are still affected by floods. 3 relief distribution centers were set up yesterday to provide flood relief items for the affected people. The SDRF and the NDRF are carrying out rescue operations and providing relief items to the flood-affected people. Here's a quick recap, or in fact, let's quickly look at the sports news. And England have kick-started their UEFA Euro 2024 campaign with an opener against Serbia. England are better placed on paper and they hold the upper hand against Serbia going into this game. But England finished at the top of Group C in the Euro qualification standings and have been in great form over the past year. The penalty shootout heartache against Italy at home is still felt by many in the country. And this time, it's going to be a big opportunity for the Three Lions to bring home a trophy. Serbia, on the other hand, have finished second in their group in their qualification campaign. They've been inconsistent in the recent months. The Balkan outfit eased past Sweden, 3-0 scoreline. This was last week, and they will be confident ahead of this fixture. And the defending champions, Italy, they've opened their Euro 2024 campaign with a narrow 2-1 win against Albania at the BVB Stadium in Dortmund. This happened on Sunday. Nadim Bajrami of Albania scored the fastest goal in the history of the European Championship, finding the net after just 23 minutes. The goal smashed the previous record held by Russia's Dmitry Kirchenko, who scored after 67 seconds against Greece in 2004. However, Italy held their nerve and equalized in the 11th minute when Bastoni headed home after a short corner. It was swung in to and far post by Lorenzo Pellegrini. Well, that's all we have in this edition of DD India News. Let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can get all the news on the go as well. It's available through our DD India mobile app. You can download it by just scanning the QR code on your screen. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Mark Lin. Thank you very much for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.